Welcome back to the Wendy's Boys Basketball Tournament Tip-Off Show, presented by your local Pick and Save stores. I'm Mike McGivern alongside Coach Paul Wollersheim with Greendale Martin Luther High School. Coach, let's talk Division III. And I'm excited to see Division III. I've seen St. Thomas More play a number of times this year. A big fan of Tony Main and his staff. And that team is really good. They're fun to watch. The game that you and I were both at against Milwaukee Academy of Science was as good a high school game with the roller coaster that we saw that I've seen this year. A lot of athletes, really good basketball players, and the place was packed over at Oak Creek. Thomas More hit some big free throws down the stretch to win that game. And in typical Tony Main fashion, he said, we got a bunch of players on this team that have the courage to hit big free throws, and I congratulate them. They start today at 1:35 against Prescott, and I think Thomas More is going to be a tough out.
Well, there's no doubt. Everybody knows about McCautry and Kona, and rightfully so. Two Division I type players, averaging 23 points a game each of them. And if you've played against them, if you've coached against them, if you've prepared for them, they're more than that, and that's why they were able to beat MAS.
Correct.
Those two guards, Evan Olesen and Kyle Olivo, those are some tough kids, and they do not back down from anybody. They are ready to hit big shots at big times in the game, and the combination of their toughness along with the athletic ability of McCautry and Kona, and then the job Tony and his staff, Tony Main and his staff have done there. Obviously, they're the favorite. They've played an extremely tough schedule and come out on top in almost every game except one. And Prescott's got their work cut out for them, but they're a solid team too. And they have a veteran coach. They've got a big kid. It'll be interesting to see how they're 6'6". Dallas Wallen,
averaging 21 a game,
21 and 10.
Hey, before you go on, I want to go back to Thomas More real quick because there's one player that we just named our U.S. Marine Player of the Game on Saturday when they were at Brown Deer and they beat Carmen Northwest, and that's Canary Parr. He's that third guard that starts.
Correct.
And doesn't score a lot of points, but he defensively plays the best player on the other team. And he did a really nice job against Carmen Northwest of playing Dupree Fletcher Jr. And he's a tough matchup. And this kid, I was so impressed with him. He doesn't take a lot of shots. He doesn't turn the ball over. He gets the ball, he changed the side of the floor. Defensively, he plays so well. And that's that hidden piece, I think, on Thomas More that not a lot of people talk about. Doesn't jump off the page at you. But when you're a coach watching him defensively, boy, he just makes that team go. He
did a nice job against MAS's best player on Thursday night as well. And you really got to give a lot of credit to Tony Main and his staff because he came over and he's used to scoring, and his ability to fit in and be a team player and understand, hey, my role is to be the defensive stopper type guy and to get these other guys their shots. That's not always the easiest thing to do, and he's accepted that role, and that's a credit to that coaching staff and him as a player.
I agree with that. Again, that game tips off today at 1:35. And I'm thinking that when you look at that game, and you talked about Dallas Wallen from Prescott, Nick Johnson, their head coach, been there 12 years. They're 23-6, I believe, at this point. I think that when they come down, if they can withstand the warm-ups, right? When you're watching Thomas More, they look good when they walk through the airport. Got a lot of size, a lot of athletic-looking players. If you can hang in the first 4 or 5 minutes to get your team to understand that, hey, we can play with these guys, I think that's probably half of the battle at that point. We had a game a while back that in a state championship game, in fact, that I knew during warm-ups that we were probably going to win because of the way the other team was warming up and kept looking down, watching us warm up. And if Prescott can get away from that and be able to hang with them the first 5 minutes, I think that's a good sign for them. 15 minutes after that game, Lakeside Lutheran against undefeated Kiel. And I had a chance to talk to some people up at Lakeside Lutheran, and very happy for Coach Jans. Really good guy, really good coach at Lakeside Lutheran. Does a real good job with that team. And for them to get back to state after losing 4 of their starters is just to him and his staff, well done on that.
Yeah, I mean, the job that Coach Johns has done, like you said, replacing 4 starters. They play a challenging schedule. They don't back off on their schedule. It's probably not as tough as Thomas More's, but they play a tough schedule, and they've got tough kids. And and it's not just one player you have to stop there. They have good balance. Veteran coaching, they're a really good team. That score in the I don't know if it was, I think it was a sectional final against Lake Mills or sectional semis. They beat Lake Mills by 15 or 20 points. Was a surprising score to me.
Yeah.
Lake Mills is a really good team, really well coached. It's a big rivalry, and to take them out on their pathway to the state tournament was really impressive win.
And the schools are across the street, basically.
Correct, yeah.
And one of the guys I talked to this week said the atmosphere for that game was like no other because there was so much on the line. He also talked about Wes Ron, who is a 6'7" sophomore for Lakeside Lutheran. He's averaging 17 a game, averaging 12 or 13 rebounds a game. And he said if this kid continues to progress the way we think, he's got a chance to be one of the best players ever to come out of Lakeside Lutheran. And they're really sharing the ball. And I think that against Kiel, again, Kiel is undefeated. Undefeated.
And that's not there's good basketball in that part of the state. There's good teams up there. So they've played a solid schedule as well. They've got, they're veterans. They returned 5 starters this year. And they've got, I think it's Pierce Arends. Mm-hmm. That's a basketball name. That's a basketball family.
Yep.
They've got good balance. So he's averaging 20 a game. They've got Grant Mance is averaging 17 a game, and Jack Heckman 11. So they got 3 starters in double figures. They just really good balance, good experience. That's not going to be that's going to be a great game.
It is, and Pierce is going to Wisconsin Lutheran. And Wisconsin Lutheran's basketball program, university had a great year, and they're doing extremely well. And Grant Mans has played 102 varsity games. And is one of the state's elite rebounders, is what I'm reading. And I can tell you that when you've played that many varsity games, the lights are not going to get too bright.
Correct.
They are not.
Yep. This is just a really good matchup between 2 really good teams, 2 really well-coached teams.
Yeah, it'll be fun to watch, that's for sure. That 1:35 tip-off, Thomas More against Prescott, and then after Kiel against Lakeside Lutheran. We're going to get to a break. Other side of the break, Division II, Paul, I think is the most interesting. I really believe that. Division I, 4 teams from this area. Division II has 3 teams from this area, and I think it's just one of the most competitive that we're going to talk about, and we'll get to that on the other side of the break. This is the Wendy's Boys Basketball Tournament Tip-Off Show, presented by our local Pick and Save stores, only on My 24.